Why, hello there. Wow, it's been a minute since I made a storytime video, so to make up for the long gap in between, I bring you 4 stories from my current Tomb of Annihilation game. A general disclaimer, this is a very heavy homebrewed version of Tomb of Annihilation, and this is not the same group I played with in Adventures League. I started playing this game last November, and it's still ongoing, so I will probably have more of these stories in the future. And also, spoiler warning for the Tomb of Annihilation module, as even if there's a lot of homebrew in the plot, we are still largely following the storyline for Tomb of Annihilation and the quest to end the Death Curse. So, this first story is a recent event as of recording, and it's about Xal, our skink barbarian, nearly killing us all by breaking a magic crystal. So, at this point in the story, we are escorting a priest to Camp Vengeance and end up taking a little bit of a detour when Xal starts finding statues that indicate a skink village is nearby. So skinks are a homebrewed race in this world, and they are constantly at odds with the Yuan-ti in Chult. Natural enemies, they absolutely hate each other. So we decided to take a look, and after getting past a barrier that seemed to protect the village, we find it in ruins. Skulls are stacked and speared into effigies. The entire village is being eaten by the growth of the jungle, and it's very clear it was annihilated by Yuan-ti. The character I play, Arrow, being our resident druid, decided to use Speak with Plants to try and find out what happened, but since this happened so long ago, she can't get the answer to what happened to the village, but she does get something else. The previous night, a group of Yuan-ti had come into the village towards the main temple, dragging a captive Triton with them. And they never left. So we decide to investigate and very quickly find them in the temple. Combat ensues, and it seems like things are going well. It's a bloody fight, but no one is getting too badly hurt. That is, until Xal takes a pretty hard hit, and when his blood splatters across the temple floor, it seeps down into the grooves carved into the floor in this intricate pattern, and suddenly they begin to glow a vivid cyan, and from the ceiling drops a massive golem that starts just absolutely demolishing all of the still alive Yuan-ti, which was just an abomination and 2 Yuan-ti purebloods. When the last one is smashed flat, it pauses and turns to our paladin Kenau and starts trying to attack her. So in the middle of this room, there is a huge blue crystal radiating with magic. We found out that this crystal was most likely the source of the magic barrier we encountered before, and the skinks believed that this was a gift from the Ancient Ones. And this crystal glowed with the same blue magic that flowed all through the grooves on the floor and the runes on the golem. So Xal tries to command the golem to stop because we thought since it was Xal's blood that awakened it, he had some control over it, and that didn't really work. So in a last-ditch effort, Xal takes his morning star and brings it down onto the magic crystal with all of his might. It cracks, but it's still intact, so he does it again, and this time, the blow is enough to shatter it. In a split second, a massive explosion sends everyone flying backwards, dealing over 40 points of damage to everyone in the blast radius. The golem is reduced to rubble. Several of us are either knocked unconscious or thrown back and stunned. Some of us get shrapnel from the crystal lodged into our skin, and the entire roof of the temple is blown clean off. And then it's silent. Arrow is making death saving throws. Many of us are extremely injured. 2 of us are stunned. But our life cleric, Beck, is still standing. And he drags himself up as the rain begins to pour, and he cries out to his god, begging for help as he invokes his channel divinity and brings us all back from the brink. Slowly, we all get up, and the rain begins to wash off the grime and dirt that built up on the walls over time. And we see a peculiar painting that depicts skinks adorning themselves in white paint, gathered around a skink with teal skin and yellow stripes and a missing tail. It's the spitting image of Xal, and beneath the mural, written in Chultan, there is an inscription. We will find the one who will save us from the Night Serpent. So we have all come to the conclusion that Xal is the skink on the wall, and the second person in the party to be depicted like a messiah. And that leads perfectly into the next 3 stories that take place about a week or 2 prior in-game. We were back in Port Nyanzaru, which is the main port city of Chult. We had come back to replenish our supplies and get some personal character missions done. So Beck, our cleric, is very much the heart of our party. He's easily the kindest out of all of us, never wanting to leave a place without helping as much as he can. So he decided to spend his time down at the Beggar's Palace. For those of you who've never read or played the module, the Beggar's Palace is one of the 2 poorest districts in Port Nyanzaru, and Beck decided to head down to the hospital and give any aid he could for the few days we were there. And he had 2 very amusing experiences. I mentioned before that Xal was the second character of ours to be treated like a messiah. Well, Beck was the first. So he went to the Beggar's Palace to help at the hospital. Well, Beck ended up clearing out the entire hospital's beds with a combination of his healing spells and his channel divinity, and of course, took no payment to do so. He just wanted to help people. Soon the word had spread, and Beck found himself crowded by people, begging him to teach them. And so, Beck, being the sweet man he is, began to preach about Mishakal, who is the goddess of compassion, love, and healing. People were flocking to him, claiming him a messiah who would save them. And so, Beck made a beautiful speech about loving each other and staying clean to avoid disease. But the people of the Beggar's Palace didn't take it the way he thought they would. They all cheered and stormed the bathhouse and had a, we'll say lovemaking party, is what we'll call it. At this point, many of us had our mics muted, I'm sure to keep from laughing and spoiling the moment. So this and the story of Xal is why we have a joke in the party about calling Xal and Beck Miguel and Tulio from The Road to El Dorado. But the fun in the Beggar's Palace doesn't stop there. The day prior to this, we won the dinosaur race, and afterwards, Beck and Xal went down to the Beggar's Palace, and Arrow decided to join them, but before her arrival, Beck and Xal found themselves in a pretty complicated situation. When they arrived, they found a woman in labor, and not long after, there were 2 very angry men who showed up, both looking for the woman. It was then found out that the father of the child wasn't the woman's husband. Yeah, it got heated real quick. Beck is tending to the woman, and Xal is handling both men outside, keeping them from going in. So like I said before, Beck always tries to offer aid to anyone he can. But this isn't a situation that a cure wounds can fix, and needless to say, the poor guy was not the most composed. It was around this time that Arrow shows up, and the first thing she sees is Xal effortlessly keeping these 2 men from getting inside the hospital as they go from fighting each other to fighting Xal and then fighting each other again and just going back and forth. From inside the hospital, Beck called for Arrow, since Arrow is a mother herself and was a medicine woman before the campaign. Xal helped give her an opening to enter, and she begins tending to the woman in labor. The baby was delivered without much issue, and the men outside eventually wore themselves out, but that wasn't the end of it. As the new mother is holding her infant in her arms, our DM begins to describe how there seems to be a sense of magic surrounding the baby. And it's here when we remember that this child was delivered with the help of a life cleric of Mishakal and an Aasimar. We helped deliver a divine soul sorcerer, ladies and gentlemen, and who knows, maybe we'll meet them again in a future campaign. The final story is going to be on Kenau and what she did during her time in the port. So, to most of the party, Kenau has kind of just been an enigma. She's a bit closed off, hard to approach, and has a really hard time talking to others. But she decided to just go take a walk around the city. And it was then she saw an inn with a name she recognized, Vandenbroek. I'm certain I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. Please forgive me. So, as I stated, Kenau is a bit of an enigma, but what we do know is that she's got a list of people she's after, and Roger Vandenbroek is one of them. She begins talking to her parrot, Presley. It's vague and hard to understand, but what we all can gather as players is that Kenau was murdered. A side note on her, though most of the party isn't aware, Kenau is an awakened, which is basically a sentient zombie. We don't know much of how Kenau died, but we do know that she was shot through the eye, and it was revealed that Roger, the tiefling that runs this inn, was the one who did it. So, Kenau enters the inn, and it's pretty empty. She gets Roger's attention, and he doesn't recognize her, as her face is mostly covered by a mask in her hair. It's not until she signs her name on the guest book that he realizes who she is. He tried to talk to her, tries to make excuses, but it doesn't last. Kenau simply pulls out her pistol and shoots him right through the eye. She walks out, a name crossed off of her list. Alright guys, I hope you guys like this small collection of stories and let me know if you want more. This is an ongoing campaign and I have many tales that range from funny to serious and I would love to share them all with you. Also, if you haven't heard, I was recently on a live Twitch game over on Roll for Damage, and all the episodes are currently up on YouTube. I'll link to both the completed playlist of The Ruffians and to Roll for Damage's Twitch and YouTube channels. Please go shower them with love. They are amazing people, they make a really cool show, and who knows? You might catch me over there again in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!